Listeners, I am joined in studio.
In studio
With Anita Brikman.
In Los Angeles. Love being here.
In Los Angeles, California. We rarely, I'm trying to think of the last time we had a guest in studio, and I can't think of anybody. So you're making me be on my A game today.
Okay. I'm happy to be here and flew in from Washington, D.C.
I
and
know.
It's exciting to be here for a bunch of different events, but this was top of my list.
Yes. Okay. I was going to lie to listeners and be like, they flew in specifically for this interview. I will say Anita has been on the show before and was one of my favorite guests, our Lady CEO Energy. And your, she's going to hate that I'm going to mention her name, but Alana, your PR staff, used to work with NBDF. So
That's
it's
correct.
like all a thing.
It's a thing. And she brought so much great insights on the patient community when she joined PPTA. And so I'm thrilled that Alana's here with me as well in LA for this opportunity. Everyone needs an Alana, we talked about.
I need an Alana. That's been my takeaway from y'all's visit. So excited to talk to you today a little bit more about your organization. I guess for a refresh, tell listeners a little bit about what you do and your connection to hemophilia, just as a refresh.
Absolutely. So I'm Anita Brikman. I'm the president and CEO of PPTA. That's the Plasma Protein Therapeutics Association. And we are a healthcare association that represents collectors of donated human plasma, as well as manufacturers of plasma-derived therapies. The connection there is that bleeding disorders, such as hemophilia and von Willebrand, can be and are treated with plasma-derived therapies. Just one of a variety of rare diseases or inherited conditions that can be treated with plasma-derived medicines. Neurologic conditions, immune deficiencies, and then there are a bunch of other uses. It can be in emergency medicine, shock trauma. There are emerging areas where plasma-derived therapies can be helpful in secondary immune deficiencies. When somebody's going through cancer treatment, post-organ transplant, there are so many uses for plasma-derived therapies, but people don't know enough about it. And it's so great to be talking to the bleeding disorders community because we need your voices to talk about the importance of plasma donation to create these life-saving and life-changing medicines for people.
One of my biggest takeaways from our conversation last time was your commitment to the hemophilia and bleeding disorders community. That for me, I've been in this community now for a while, and I never knew that there was a connection. So I loved that, and I'm so glad you're here today to talk about International Plasma Awareness Week, which has maybe the best acronym of all time, IPAW.
Yes, except you start thinking about puppies, right?
That's why I think it's great. I was like, iPod, this is great.
No, so this is our International Plasma Awareness Week, IPAW. It is a worldwide celebration, and this is just about raising awareness of the need for plasma, as I said, ongoing need for donation, encouraging people who can donate to get out there to do it, and to raise awareness that the reason for those donations is that somewhere on the other side, a patient is going to get a plasma-derived therapy. So when you donate plasma, you are changing and improving somebody's life. This year, IPAW is coming up October 7th through 11th. And it's just so great to be talking to your community and encouraging them to get involved, whether it's on social media, talking to friends and family, just spreading the word.
That's fantastic. How can people get involved? Social media, spreading the word?
Exactly. And we're going to have a slew of assets that people can use. Yes, social media graphics, all of that is going to be available at pptaglobal.org/IPAW. So hopefully we can put that.
No, we'll put that in the program notes.
In the program notes, exactly. A link there, pptaglobal.org/IPAW. A suite of social media posts that can be adapted to your own personal experience, but just encouraging people to think about plasma and plasma-derived therapies. Now, I'm very well aware that many in the bleeding disorders community here, especially in the U.S., don't necessarily rely on plasma-derived therapies, but certainly around the world, hemophilia is still very much treated with plasma-derived therapies, and many other bleeding disorder conditions, such as von Willebrand, continue to be treated with plasma-derived therapies. The plasma cannot be recreated in the lab. It is human plasma, and the proteins and antibodies in that plasma are what replace what's missing in another individual.
Absolutely. What a great way for our community to think outside themselves a little bit and to educate their own communities about hemophilia, bleeding disorders. I love it. So, around that vein, why is it important for those in the bleeding disorder community to support IPAW?
So I think it is very important. People with bleeding disorders, by and large, probably cannot go and donate plasma. However, if you tell your friends and family how important plasma donation is and encouraging them to find a center where they might be able to do so, there's a tangential link. When we think about how many donations it takes to treat someone with hemophilia A, for example, it is 1,200 plasma donations for 1 year of therapy. So if you think about that, the amount of plasma it takes to create these medicines, and it varies for the different disorders, but that's very powerful for the bleeding disorders community. And some people, again, because of reactions they may have to recombinants, whatever, plasma-derived therapies still matter in the bleeding disorders community very much. And they are such an important, anyone out there listening as part of this community is such an important voice to say, our condition, as well as immune system conditions, neurological, all these different things, they may be rare, quote unquote, but when you look at this cumulatively, these are so many lives affected. And plasma donation matters to all these groups of people. So if individuals within the bleeding disorder community can also talk about plasma donation among the many other topics that they address, especially during IPAW, I think it has a cumulative effect.
Oh, me too. If someone's curious about donating plasma, especially for the first time, what should they know and where can they go for resources and all the things?
Okay, so we have another website, donatingplasma.org.
Yes, we're going to have all of these websites on the program notes. They're going to be in a list.
They will be in a list so you can find them. And now we're singing about plasma. All right. So, okay, let's say you have never donated plasma before. What can you expect? Okay, what is it, first of all? Let's talk about plasma. It's not blood. It's a blood component. It is the straw-colored liquid portion of your blood. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Sometimes we talk about this as liquid gold because of what's in it. It contains the proteins necessary for critical functions throughout the human body, and that is the antibodies that help fight a disease. If a child is born without a working immune system, imagine how many infections can land that child in the hospital. There are also the proteins and clotting factors that are so necessary for people with bleeding disorders. But there are a variety of serious, chronic, and life-threatening medical conditions treated with plasma-derived therapies. Okay, so as a donor, you should know where that plasma donation is going. But what is the process you can expect? It is similar to donating blood, but different. It takes a little bit longer. It is a process called plasmapheresis. Big word, but basically what it means is the plasma is separated from the red blood cells and other cellular components, the platelets, all of that goes back to the donor. And it's just the plasma that is taken. There's also saline that is returned to the donor's bloodstream for rehydration. So this process takes a little bit longer. And the first time you go in, there is a health screening to make sure you're able to donate. They check pulse, blood pressure, similar to donating blood, but just a little bit more involved. And just like you would before a blood donation, you want to be well hydrated, have had a really good meal, protein, etc. So a lot of the same things that if you're a regular blood donor, you could think about doing before you donate plasma. But all of this is laid out on donatingplasma.org. as well as where you could find a plasma donation center near you. And more of them are opening in California all the time.
Oh, that's great to know. That's great to know. So IPAW is coming up. It's coming up here. How can the bleeding disorders community continue to support plasma donation and y'all year round?
Year round, it's just talking about the need for plasma donation, remembering that that's a part of this whole ecosystem of developing life-saving therapies and thinking about all the people out there with various disorders. Plasma can be somewhat of a uniting force in the sense of how many people can live perfectly healthy lives if they have access to these therapies. So spreading the word about plasma donation, the importance of plasma-derived therapies, mentioning it on social media, um, encouraging family and friends to consider becoming a regular plasma donor because there are patients in need.
Anita, as always, thank you for joining us. I always love when you come. It's always a great conversation, but even more so, I think it is just such an important reminder for our community, especially here in the States, to kind of think outside of themselves and to really get behind this in a way and to follow your work. And we just really appreciate it. We really appreciate your partnership with the bleeding disorder community and, other rare disease communities. So thank you so much for the work you do.
It's wonderful. And I really like that closing message about thinking outside of what we experience here in the United States, because the needs in other lower and middle income countries, it is a completely different landscape. And there are still too many patients with bleeding disorders who do not have access to the therapies they need, and that needs to change.
Thank you, Anita.
Thank you.